she walked onto the Tonight Show stage for the last time. The audience stood and applauded, but something was terribly wrong. Lucille Ball, America's Queen of Comedy. The woman who made 60 million people laugh every week could barely stand. She leaned heavily on a cane. Her burgundy dress hung loose on her frame, and her eyes, those famous, mischievous eyes, looked haunted. 8 days later, she would be dead. But on this night, April 18th, 1989, Lucille Ball did something she'd never done in 40 years of performing. She stopped hiding. She stopped pretending. And she revealed a truth so devastating that grown men in the audience openly wept. Johnny Carson, who'd interviewed thousands of celebrities over 30 years, later said it was the most heartbreaking moment in Tonight Show history. This wasn't supposed to happen. Lucy had appeared on the show dozens of times, always quick with a joke, always in control, always performing. The producers had planned a light, nostalgic conversation about I Love Lucy. Instead, they got a confession that would change millions of lives. If you've ever struggled with choosing between success and love, between career and family, between what the world wants and what your heart needs, stay with this story, because what Lucille Ball revealed in her final moments will break your heart and might just save your most important relationships. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this is the most powerful celebrity confession ever captured on camera. April 18th, 1989, 5:30 p.m. backstage at NBC Studios in Burbank, California. Lucille Ball sat in her dressing room, staring at her reflection. The makeup artists had done their best, but they couldn't hide what was happening to her. The cancer was winning. She'd lost 30 pounds in 2 months. Her hands trembled constantly. The doctors had told her to stay home, to rest, to save her strength, but she'd insisted on doing this interview, and nobody could talk her out of it. "Ms. Ball, we're ready for you in 5 minutes," a young production assistant said nervously. Everyone on staff was terrified. This wasn't just any guest. This was Lucy, the woman who'd basically invented the sitcom, the first woman to run a major television studio, an American icon. Down the hall, Johnny Carson sat in his own dressing room, unusually quiet. His longtime producer had briefed him. "Johnny, she's really sick. The doctors don't think she has much time. She specifically asked to see you. She said she has something important to say." Johnny had known Lucy for over 30 years. They'd become friends back when he was just starting out, and she was already a legend. Now he was about to interview her one final time, and something in his gut told him this would be different from every other interview he'd ever done. At 5:35 p.m., the studio doors opened. The audience filed in, buzzing with excitement. Lucy was scheduled as the first guest. People were thrilled. Some had grown up watching I Love Lucy. Others knew her from Here's Lucy or The Lucy Show. Everyone expected to laugh. The Tonight Show audience always laughed when Lucy appeared. But when she walked onto that stage at 5:47 p.m., the laughter died in their throats. Lucy moved slowly, each step deliberate, careful. Her signature red hair was perfectly styled. Her makeup was flawless, but something was terribly obviously wrong. Her face looked gaunt. Her famous smile seemed forced, and the sparkle, that legendary sparkle that had lit up television screens for 4 decades, was gone. The audience stood and applauded, but it wasn't their usual enthusiastic response. This ovation was different, quieter, more reverent. People were clapping for a legend, yes, but they were also saying goodbye. Johnny stood and walked from behind his desk to greet Lucy, something he rarely did. He took her hand gently and helped her into the guest chair. For a moment, they just looked at each other. The cameras caught something raw passing between them. This wasn't host and guest. This was 2 old friends who both knew this was goodbye. "Lucy," Johnny said softly, his voice already thick with emotion. "Thank you for being here." "Where else would I be, Johnny?" Lucy replied, and the audience laughed, grateful for any moment of normalcy. "You've got the best seat in town." For the first 15 minutes, everything seemed fine. Johnny asked about I Love Lucy. Lucy told the famous story about the chocolate factory scene. The audience laughed. She talked about working with Desi Arnaz, carefully avoiding anything too personal. She was performing, doing what she'd done masterfully for 40 years, making people laugh, while revealing absolutely nothing real about herself. But Johnny, who'd built his career on reading people, could see through it. He could see her hands shaking. He could hear the slight tremor in her voice. He could see her fighting some emotion she was trying desperately to control. Then he asked the question that changed everything. "Lucy," he said gently, deviating from his prepared questions, "you've given us so much laughter over the years. What's given you joy?" The question hung in the air. Lucy's smile faltered. She looked down at her hands, then back up at Johnny. The audience sensed the shift. The energy in the studio changed instantly. "Joy," she repeated quietly. "You know, Johnny, that's an interesting question." She paused. The silence stretched. Millions of viewers leaned closer to their televisions. "People think because you make them laugh, you must be happy," Lucy continued, her voice becoming softer. "They think because you're successful, you must have everything you want. They think because you're famous, you must be fulfilled." Another pause. Longer this time. Johnny didn't interrupt. He knew something was coming. "But what if I told you," Lucy said, her eyes beginning to glisten, "that I spent my whole life making people laugh while I was dying inside? What if I told you that every smile you saw on TV was covering up the biggest regret of my entire life?" The studio audience went completely silent. You could hear the cameras moving. Someone in the back row coughed. Johnny's face showed genuine shock. This wasn't in the script. This wasn't planned. Lucy's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. A single tear rolled down her cheek, cutting through her carefully applied makeup. "Johnny, can I tell you something I've never told anyone publicly?" Johnny Carson, who'd maintained professional composure through 30 years and over 20,000 interviews, could barely speak, of course. "Lucy, anything." Lucy took a shaky breath. "I'm dying. The cancer the doctors give me maybe 2 weeks. But that's not what I need to say." She wiped her eyes roughly, smearing her mascara. "I need to talk about Desi." The audience gasped. Lucy and Desi Arnaz's divorce had been Hollywood legend. They had created the most successful show in television history together, then destroyed each other in one of the most bitter divorces of the 1960s. Lucy never spoke about it publicly. Never. She deflected questions about Desi for 30 years. But now, with nothing left to lose, she was ready to tell the truth. "Everyone thinks I left Desi because of his drinking. His infidelity, his gambling," Lucy said, her voice breaking. "And all of that was true. He did all those things. But that's not why our marriage really ended." She looked directly at Johnny, tears streaming freely now. "I destroyed our marriage. Johnny? Not him, me." "Lucy, you don't have to," Johnny started, but she held up her hand. "Yes, I do. Because in 8 days, I'll be gone. And if I don't say this now, I'll die with this regret eating me alive." She was fully crying now, her whole body shaking. "Desi asked me to quit the show. Not at the beginning, but later. After our son was born, he begged me. He said, 'Lucy, we have enough money. Let's just be a family. Let's watch our kids grow up. Let's travel. Let's live.' The studio was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. And I said no," Lucy continued, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "I said no because I loved the fame more than I loved him. I loved the applause more than I loved our family. I chose being Lucy Ricardo over being Lucy Arnaz, and it destroyed everything." Johnny was openly crying now, not even trying to hide it. Several audience members were sobbing. The camera operators were wiping their eyes. "Desi died in 1986, Lucy said. 3 years ago, and you know what his last words to me were? I visited him in the hospital 2 days before he died. He took my hand and he said, 'Lucy, I never stopped loving you. Not for one single day.'" She completely broke down. Her shoulders shook with sobs. Johnny moved his chair closer and took her hand. And I realized, Lucy gasped between sobs, that I had thrown away the love of my life for what? For a TV show? For fame? For people to know my name? Her voice cracked completely. "Desi is gone. My children barely know me because I was always working. I have 3 Emmy Awards and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and I would trade every single one of them for one more day with the man I loved." The entire studio was crying. Not just tears, but full body-shaking sobs. The audience, the crew, Johnny, everyone. Lucy composed herself enough to look directly into the camera, her makeup completely ruined, her face red and swollen. "I'm telling you this because some of you are making the same mistake right now. You're choosing your career over your family. You're choosing success over love. You're choosing everything that doesn't matter over the only thing that does. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Do you know what I did 2 weeks after Desi died? I went to his house, or old house where we lived when we were happy, and I stood in the driveway and I screamed at the sky. I screamed, why didn't I say yes? Why didn't I just say yes when he asked me to choose him? She covered her face with her hands, her voice muffled. I've had 3 years to think about this. 3 years of waking up every morning knowing I made the worst decision of my life. And now I'm dying and I can't fix it. I can't go back. I can't tell Desi I'm sorry. I can't tell him he was right. She looked up, tears streaming. I can't tell him that every single award, every magazine cover, every moment of fame meant absolutely nothing compared to losing him. Johnny couldn't speak. He just held her hand and cried with her. The night before Desi died, Lucy continued, her voice barely audible, he told me something else. He said, Lucy, don't make our mistake. Tell people. Tell everyone. Choose love. Choose family. Don't let them choose fame over what matters. She looked up at Johnny with devastated eyes. He made me promise, and I've been too much of a coward to keep that promise until now. Lucy turned to face the camera directly, addressing the 20 million people watching. If you have someone you love, and you're putting work first, stop. If you're missing your kids' baseball games for me, if you're choosing a promotion over your marriage, stop. Her voice grew stronger, more urgent. I'm Lucille Ball. I'm one of the most famous women in the world, and I'm telling you that none of it, absolutely none of it, is worth losing the people you love. She paused. Gathering her last bit of strength, Desi and I created the most successful show in television history. We had everything, and I threw it away because I was afraid that if I stopped performing, people would forget about me. Her voice broke completely. Well, guess what? They will forget about me. In 50 years, maybe 100, nobody will care about I Love Lucy. But Desi would have loved me forever. My children would have had a mother, and I wouldn't be sitting here dying and alone with nothing but regrets. The studio erupted not in applause, but in sobs. Women in the audience were holding each other. Johnny Carson put his face in his hands and cried like he'd never cried on television before. Lucy looked at him and whispered, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to fall apart like this. Don't apologize, Johnny said through his tears. Don't you dare apologize for telling the truth. What happened next was completely spontaneous. Johnny Carson stood up, walked around his desk, and sat on the couch next to Lucy. He put his arm around her shoulders while she cried, into his jacket. The cameras kept rolling, capturing one of the most intimate moments in television history. The audience stood as one. They weren't applauding. They were witnessing, honoring, grieving with her. The ovation went on for 3 full minutes, while Lucy sobbed in Johnny's arms. When she finally lifted her head, Johnny handed her his handkerchief. Lucy, he said softly, Desi knew you loved him. I promise you, he knew. How can you be sure? She asked, her voice like a child's. Because love like that doesn't disappear just because people get divorced, Johnny said. He waited for you. He loved you until his last breath. He knew, Lucy, trust me. Lucy nodded, unable to speak. She looked out at the audience, then back at the camera. Please, she said, her voice hoarse from crying. Please, don't make my mistake. Go home tonight. Tell the people you love that they matter more than anything. Hug your children. Hold your spouse. Choose them. Choose love. Always choose love. Johnny helped her stand. As they walked toward the stage exit, Lucy stopped and turned back one last time, and Johnny, thank you for letting me tell the truth. Finally, 8 days later, on April 26, 1989, Lucille Ball died of a heart attack. She was 77 years old. The response to Lucy's final interview was unprecedented. NBC received over 400,000 letters in the following month. People wrote about reconciling with ex-spouses, parents quitting jobs to spend time with their children, families reuniting after years of estrangement. Johnny Carson spoke at Lucy's funeral. She spent 40 years making us laugh, he said. But in her final interview, she gave us something more valuable than laughter. She gave us permission to admit our regrets. She gave us the courage to choose differently. She saved marriages. She brought families together. That was Lucy's real legacy. Today, that interview is preserved in the Library of Congress. It's shown in marriage counseling sessions, business ethics classes, and grief therapy groups. Lucy's breakdown became her most important performance not because it was entertaining, but because it was true. Lucille Ball died with regrets. But because she was brave enough to share them, millions of people changed their lives. They chose love over fame, family over fortune, presence over success. Don't wait until it's too late. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more powerful true stories that will change how you see the world. Tell someone you love them today. Lucy would want you to choose love. Always choose love.